Ty, it's so good to be here with you. I just am so thrilled about this topic today.
Thank you, Shar. It's so good to be here as always. These are really, really foundational topics, and I'm excited as well.
Well, and guys, as we start this webinar, every single week we are talking about the main things that are going to move the needle in your coaching business. And so understand that no matter where you are in your coaching business, this applies to you. And Ty, you have said this before as you founded CoachCon, as you've built this vision over the last couple of years, that this is going to be what coaches really need to really establish a successful coaching business.
100%. I think when we first started in the concept of coaching, we thought volume, volume, volume. But as we've evolved over time, we now know it's not quantity, it's really quality. And that's what this topic speaks to today.
Well, and that's a perfect segue, guys. There's a myth, Ty, in the industry that you have to have millions and millions of followers. Even this idea that you have to have 100,000 followers for success, and I don't think that's right.
You don't need 100,000. You actually do. We're moving into a market where 100,000 requires a lot more work and a lot more attention than a really core few who believe in your message, your value, and can really identify with what you're teaching them. You don't need 100,000. This is not a spray and pray model. I think we've evolved beyond that thinking, because the reality is that if you do a really good job with a core few, that core few will tell more and more and more, and they'll help you build your coaching business. It doesn't require you to go out and try to sign up everybody who you could possibly sign up and get to that big magic number, because you're not serving that magic number effectively.
Well, and I also believe, guys, your businesses, especially with where you're doing a one-to-one model, you don't have enough hours in the day anyway to service 10,000, 20,000 clients anyway. So when you start off with this model, and this really goes into what we're going to talk about next, is how a six-figure coach can make real money instead of having a six-figure follower, right? That's really typically the disconnect I see a lot of times with these coaches who think they have to have all these followers.
100% sure. So here's the thing, right? If you want to make six figures, you can backward integrate and figure out exactly how to get there, right? So six figures at your program cost equals X number of units. X number of units is all you need to focus on getting. And X number of units divided by X number of weeks or X number of days of your sales cycle, that's how you get to the number you need. You don't need to try to close, have a big audience and a ton of followers and do dancing videos and all of the stuff that people try to do to build up that following, because it's those people, even if they become a customer, they don't always stay a customer because they weren't your right avatar. They weren't the people who you really genuinely got into coaching to serve. These people, if you stay really hyper
Exactly.
focused and you offer the value and you show the results and you really, really stay true to who you are, your mission, your vision, and everything like that, you can still get to that six-figure mark, and then the seven and the eight.
Well, it's not only the formula, Ty, that you shared, but it's also the mindset, guys. When you're thinking about your business, it's being able to deliver the quality, to have that one-to-one touch, to be able to say your value, your experience. Last time I checked, if you spent $250,000 on your schooling, you should be able to make that up in your business or whatever role you're doing. This can't be just a feel-good situation. You've got to really calculate, like Ty is saying, what does that figure look like in your business?
Yes. And here's the thing, right? When you have a core group, when you have a quality group of clients that you believe in, you can serve, you're getting results and transformations for, when you have that core group, you can add products and services to continue focusing on that core group and getting what we call a deeper share of wallet, instead of trying to get more of the units. Your best customer sometimes is the
Right.
customer you already have that you're going to add a product or service to, and again, deepen that share of wallet.
Well, and here's a real example, guys, of what it takes. Ty, you've coached numerous clients who had zero followers, right? Here's a real world example of building six figures without 100,000 followers. So, in this real example, many of you are going to think about, your own journey as a coach. Some of you are just starting off, maybe charging nothing, and now you guys are moving into that. But Ty, your recent client that you started didn't have any followers, not even 10,000 followers, and they're already crushing it with new customers.
Absolutely. I mean, several clients that I started with at zero were just starting out of the gate. The first thing we did is we figured out, okay, what is your product? What is your service? Who do you want to serve? How do you add that value, that transformation? How do you make yourself competitive? And then we build the brand. Once we tell the market, now after you've established yourself and what you want to do and who you want to serve and the product you're offering. Then we go out and we tell the market, and we tell the market every day, and we tell the market regularly. But that's where people get distracted, right? They tell the market, and then somebody expresses, "Oh, I like this," and then they go after and they chase that person. They spend all their energy bringing that person in, even though the person wasn't aligned to what they were doing. They were just curious, or they wanted to learn something, or they were fascinated by the bright, shiny images, and then the business goes haywire. Instead of being discerning, even at that point, to say, "Hey, I love that you're interested in this. I want to give you more free content. This may not be the right product for you, but stay in the community. Maybe there's a time later on that it will be. But you stay hyper focused on the value that you want to create to the people you want to serve. And that's how you start building your business the right way."
Well, and guys, that's an alignment because there are strategies beyond, the LinkedIn, the social media. There's strategies beyond what you're currently doing. And Ty, you have mastered this, especially with network leverage. I have seen you be so masterful of this. That's one strategy I know that many coaches don't utilize today.
Absolutely. I mean, you're in communities, you're in relationships, you're in groups, you're in memberships. It's making sure that, we have this thing called COIs, centers of influence, building relationships with other people who have relationships with networks already, and making sure that you're adding value to those people and you're showing them what you can do to their networks, the same way that you belong to other networks and you voluntarily give value to your networks. But listen, it's all about sharing with the wider masses, the wider audience. This is the value you've created. You're very confident. You're very sure. You know what you're doing, and
Right.
you're able to serve a need that they may have after you've identified that need. The other thing with network leverage is that it's all around you. Having conversations. A lot of people say, "Well, I have to sell, sell, sell." You don't have to sell. Selling is not trying to convince somebody to buy your product. You just have to talk about your product, share it with the person next to you, share it on the plane, share it in the coffee shop. Just tell people what you do. You have no idea who that person that who's in that person's network, how you can leverage their network and their relationships, or what job they might be in. When I started my coaching business, I went to a dinner party and I met the HR manager for the company. I ended up coaching 13 of their executives. So 2 months after I became a coach, I was coaching 13 executives at a very large corporation, and that came because I told them what I did at a dinner party. So you have to make sure that you're telling everybody your story, telling everybody your why, and sharing what you do in the networks and in your day-to-day life, and in relationships that you already have.
Well, and that's why, relationship marketing, guys, is the real multiplier because you can leverage a lot of these strategies, but it's you're still selling to people. People are still paying you. Last night when I did this training time, the number one response was people are still buying from people, no matter if you have AI, no matter if you have a website. It's the people that you're talking to, people that you're going to serve, guys. That's the real multiplier. And Ty, I have seen this firsthand from you because of the fact that your network of relationships is one that you protect. You never ever, and I've never seen this personally firsthand, and this is something that I appreciate and honor about you, is that you are of the give mentality. I hate the takers. The takers in our life, they don't belong. But the givers, you are a giver.
Yeah, because you just want to genuinely help. And when people realize that we are not in a coaching business, we're in a relationship business. We're constantly building relationships. We're constantly validating those relationships. We're constantly adding more and pouring into those relationships. And then we're celebrating those relationships. As a coach, as somebody who's impacting people's lives, your job is to take your experience, your knowledge, your expertise, your methodology, and really help somebody get from A to B. Right? That's the job you signed up for. It's the same way like a chef wants to see your face delighted after he serves you a meal. The same way why a television producer wants to see people like excited when they put somebody on screen that identifies with them. It's the same way a coach wants to see that transformation happen. And to do that transformation, you have to build that relationship. You have to establish that trust and make sure that that linkage you've now created results in a transformation in the betterment of that person. That's our job. That's what we have to do.
And guys, that's the baseline, right? So we're going to talk about some action steps for coaches who are just starting, or maybe you're so seasoned and you're not really going to grow an audience. We want you to hear a couple of these key things because this is going to be the next step, which is action and application. And Ty, many times people miss that step in growing their business. So first and foremost, guys, I want you to be able to identify warm connections. Look at your current circle of influence. Every single one of us have 250 around who we are and what we do. Those all have one to two people that possibly could be looking for your help today. I know this without a doubt. Now, some of you might ask, well, Charlene, I just only have 10 people that I know. Well, that's great. Start with the 10 people that you do know. Ask for one or two introductions to organizations or to people that may have the problems that you know how to solve for them, because that's going to be really critical and important. Now, I don't want it to feel overwhelming for you, but I definitely want you to know and hear this. A lot of times, you're one person away from the relationship or connection you need in order to grow your business. This has happened to me time and time again. I've learned this firsthand. And Ty, when you think about warm relationships and connections, and we're thinking about that one person that literally would open the door, has this happened in your career?
Yeah, sure. The reality is that there's all of these relationships exist. They exist. They're in your network. If you take the time to just sit down and thoughtfully think, okay, if I go through my network, my relationships, my church, my PTA meeting, all of the different touch points that you have in your life, you will always be able to identify. I
Mhm.
mean, our slide talks about 20 to 30 or 20 to 50 people, but the reality is that you can come up with over 100 people that you can just share. And it's not always we're thinking, oh, I'm going to sell that person. You don't have to sell that person. You can
Mhm.
potentially introduce that person because they know somebody else, or you want to share that person to get advice, or you want to create a personal board where that person's going to give you an outside perspective, or that person works in a company that you may be able to introduce an HR product or corporate product. So the reality is, it's like you just make your network and you think about the people in your life that you make your list and you think about people in your life that you believe you want to get input from, you want to engage in your process, and you'll come up with that list and that list of people who will willingly want to help you and get you to the next step. Honestly, like this is the first step when you're thinking about building the business, you're thinking about building an audience, you're thinking about getting customers. It starts within your network. I have always said to folks, like, your first sale comes from your friends and family. Your first set of clients come from the people you already know. You don't, and people tell me, like, oh, should I start advertising? Like, no, you are a baby business. You want to start with your existing network and then their network. And then you can start saying, okay, I have a base, I validated my product, I validated my concept of I'm getting results. Now I can put those results to market and now I can potentially invest in ad dollars. But organic marketing was first. So friends and family, then organic marketing, then you can go into ads.
And guys, one of the things that you can do for building social proof is actually asking your friends and family and your colleagues to give you a review of who you are as a person.
Mm.
That's social proof already that you care about people, that you say and do what you say you're going to do. You do the things that make all the difference in people's lives and careers. Whatever you are doing, you already have social proof. You just don't look at it that way because you're thinking, I have to be a formal business. I've got to make sure I'm stood up. Ty, I hate to say this, sometimes they're still stuck in the checkbox approach. I'm not there yet, so I've got to be perfect. And you and I coach them and say, just start where you are right now.
So right, Shar. Here's the thing. You became a coach. You decided to transition to a coach because you've had an experience, you've had a life experience, you've had a career, you've been able to build on something that you want to share with the world. Guess what? Through that building phase, you've done great work. People can validate, yeah, you're an honest person, you have integrity, you've helped them out, you've given them advice, you've transformed their life. Like that stuff doesn't start when you say, I have a coach title. That stuff has been happening throughout your entire career and your life. And so if you go back to the places and the time and the people that were involved in those processes, you have 5 to 7 recommendations. One of the things that's so easy, and I just told somebody this the other day, your LinkedIn profile, right? As a coach, as a business owner, you must have a robust LinkedIn profile. That recommendations feature often gets missed by a lot of people as a super valuable tool. That recommendation feature was before Google reviews, that was before Yelp reviews. That recommendation feature, if you go to my profile, I think I have like 37 there. And the reality is that every point in my career, I ask somebody, hey, can you share a recommendation on my profile? And for the past 25 years, those recommendations live. So anybody who goes to my LinkedIn profile, whatever business I'm in, whatever I'm doing at the moment, can go back and see for 25 years I have a track record of integrity, of honesty, of delivering results, of supporting people, of getting people transformed, and it's there. and it's dated and it's got the people and the position I was in and the position they were in and the stories that they want to tell. And every year I think about, okay, how do I add another one? How do I add another one? And that is the simplest form of making sure that people have, without you even starting your business or being in business, if people have a good idea of what you're capable of.
Wow, guys, and this is the reason why we want you to join us in the CoachCon community, everybody. This is where that jumping off point. You're not going to do this alone. You're not going to do this with other people who have no idea how to start a coaching business. Ty, I hate to say this. Sometimes they ask, a spouse or a family member who doesn't have what they want, and they try to ask them for a business advice. I'm like, guys, you wouldn't go to the chiropractor and say, hey, can you do a heart transplant? That just doesn't work. That's just not a part of the formula of success. So join us. Ty, tell them how they can join us in our community at CoachCon, how they can work together for swag, and how we're coming together as a whole community to do this.
So Shar is right. You are not the only person building a business. You're not the only person building a coaching business. There's so many people at your level, and there are people who are just ahead of you that want to share their wins, their transformation, their successes with you, so you can learn from them and not make the same mistakes. So joining and being part of a community allows you to leverage other people's knowledge. It also allows you to leverage other people's audiences, because as you build this together, you may have a coach who doesn't have a client that fits into that avatar that we talked about that may fit perfectly into yours. And so those collaborations, those partnerships, that building together, that sharing of resources and audiences, that's what we offer at CoachCon. So check out CoachCon. It's CoachCon, www.coachcon.global, or you can visit us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, same thing, CoachCon.global. And then, we're working on this with our partners at Coach Academy, Coach to Coach Academy, and build your brand. And once you event swag, I'm sorry, once you join the CoachCon community, you have access to these and way more resources that we're going to help you with. Our conference is September 16th and 17th. It's a virtual conference, and we would love to have you there. And we're going to be showing a lot of emerging coaches, a lot of first-time coaches, a lot of early stage coaches how to build the business the right way.
Wow, thank you, Ty. Thank you for your belief, your passion of building CoachCon. Many years ago, it was an idea and a thought, an inspiration that came from above, and now look at where it is today. Thank you, Ty, for all that you do, guys, and thank you again for really trusting us to help you navigate through building a coaching business. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, R.